In this video, I attempt to paint my first ever watercolour portrait. How hard can this be, right? Enjoy. So I started with an outline and filled it in the skin with a kind of wash of a brownie, light brownie wash, and then added some more pigment in the toned areas. That's a good kind of start, but then I started putting in some shadows and immediately I realised I'd gone way too heavy, too dark. I was making a bit of a purple with the blue and the red, and it looked pretty ugly from the start, I thought. So put in a bit of detail to see if I could salvage it, and it kind of had a bit of an contemporary feel, so I kept going with it. Should have probably stopped again to let it dry. I might have stopped once at this stage, but then making a mess, so I thought I'd see what would happen if I had some hair. It's okay at this stage, it's pretty ugly, but so then I think about now I got out some white ink to try and make some corrections, and really on the wet, and then the white ink on the wet, and all the colours, it just was getting messier and messier. And messier paint bleeding into areas I didn't want to. The mouth just seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. Shadows happening where they shouldn't have been happening, so I needed to do some major corrections and got out that white ink and just corrected all the bits. I thought I'd correct it all, let it dry overnight and come back to it in the morning. So I did that, and yeah, I think I might be better off. Perhaps I'll start without an outline next time, and just paint wash and then put the detail in after I've got my wash in, because I'll have less, it won't matter so much where the marks go. So that's going to be the plan for next time. Yeah, I reckon. So this is where I left it. So I'm halfway through this portrait watercolour, and it's been a challenge. My goodness, it's been a challenge. I thought I started off okay with the initial wash. Got very hassled by the cat. Went in too dark too soon. Then went in over the wet paint with more paint, trying to make some corrections while it's wet, which apparently is a big no-no with watercolour. Should have waited till it dried, and so really stuffed up the mouth and stuffed up lots of stuff. Went over it with white ink to make some corrections, so it looked like I just covered the whole thing with liquid paper. Quite hysterical, really. Use the pencils a bit to get some detail, and I think I've gone way too long with this. So adding some background, thinking that might help. Green was a big mistake. Brown over green was an even bigger mistake. So I'm trying to make a kind of abstract background to sort of sit her in there and add some tones, some depth into the hair to bring her forward. Probably should have just stopped now, really. But I kept going, looking for perfection. Really, I don't think I'll get any perfection for a while until I master these this medium. So yeah, should have stopped, but I kept going. There's a few times during this process that I should have stopped, but I kept going. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. it sort of does your head in a bit. Stuff up after stuff up after stuff up. Yeah, so last ditch effort to salvage this. I'm going to go in with some ink. I'm going to go in with some pencil. I'm going to go in heavy with some pigment just to salvage what I can, abstract it up a bit, get rid of the bad bits and see what's left. So this is going to be interesting and fun. I think I would have learnt from the last painting I did not to do a dark background, but what do? Go into a dark background and add some dark, and then I just sort of went in a bit dark, and then I'm putting on more paint, and then I'm just working wet on wet on wet on wet. I added some splats even and smudged them out, made a big mess. And then I just gave up at this stage, a bit more white just to bring back the highlights. And then I ripped the top when I pulled the, oh my gosh, it's like a major tantrum.